The United States undoubtedly lost the war against Iran. The terms that Iran has proposed, and the United States has accepted these terms as a framework to start negotiations, are nothing but a humiliation for the United States. Now, at first glance, it seems like if the United States lost such a major war, then the US dollar is no longer going to be the global reserve currency. In fact, this might be the end of the US dollar as the US economy as the world's largest economy. However, what if I told you that the fact that the United States has lost this war is actually a great win for the United States? Now, at first, it doesn't seem like that. How is it possible that you start a war, you lose the war, and then you end up victorious at the end of the day? It makes no sense whatsoever. Now, to understand that, we have to go back to 2016. In 2016, there was a study released by PwC, and it stated that by 2050, China will become the world's largest economy, India will be the second largest economy, and the United States will be the third largest economy. And the data on that was very clear. If you pull out the GDP growth on all of these three nations, it was very easy to predict that sooner or later China will overtake the United States. And because India is such a huge country with such a huge domestic population, it was not difficult to imagine that if India is going to manage this economy properly, first of all, they will become a manufacturing powerhouse, they're a coastline country, and they have geographically such a huge country that they're capable of becoming the world's largest economy. So the United States will be the third largest economy. And historically, if we go back to 20th century, there was one country that almost overtook the United States, and that was Japan. And we know what the United States did with Japan. We know for a fact that the United States is not ready to give up its place easily as the world's largest economy. Because if you're not that economy, there is no way that you can actually project power on the rest of the world. But here is the key. The reason that these countries actually became such huge economies, such as China and India, is because the United States has created a global peace across the globe. And it was also because the United States has opened its consumer market for them. If it wasn't for these reasons, then these countries would not be such huge economies today. If you go back 40 years ago to China, China was a very poor country. But because there is a global peace, because the US military safeguards the global seas, the rest of the world could easily trade with one another without being worried that their ships are going to be destroyed by somebody. So that global trade allowed China or the Chinese economy to grow so fast and become the second world's largest economy. Imagine for a moment if there was no United States. First of all, you cannot probably protect all of your ships, you cannot protect global trading routes, and because China had access to the largest consumer market, which is the United States, it allowed China to significantly soar its economy. And now the exact same thing is happening with India. So if there was no global peace across the globe, it was impossible for all these nations to actually be so powerful. And we can easily see these examples going back to the pre-American dominance in the world. Like China wasn't actually this dominant country in the world. Yes, China has a long history, but China was easily invaded by neighboring countries. It couldn't actually build successful trading routes across the globe. The same thing could be said about India. India was colonized by the UK. So India couldn't actually project power, couldn't actually become this global economy. But it also benefited primarily the United States to begin with. But right now, we are in a world that peace is no longer in the interest of the United States. If we continue with the exact same world order when there is a lot of peace across the globe, then China will overtake the United States, India will overtake the United States, and the United States will become the third world's largest economy. Which is why the United States right now is facing three major problems. Number one is the national debt that is getting out of control. Number two, there is no manufacturing in the United States. All that manufacturing is either in China, India, and similar countries. And now there is global competition from countries such as India and China. So what is the possible solution? Well, global instability. Get rid of this piece and let's look if Chinese economy is going to grow. And let's look if the Indian economy is going to grow. And the war with Iran perfectly aligns with that. So the United States was defeated in this war against Iran because the United States is now demanding what actually was opened before the war. Like right now, the main concern of the United States is open the Strait of Hormuz. But think about it for a moment. That strait was opened before the war. So basically the United States is trying to negotiate with Iran to get back what the United States had before the war. And in exchange for that, the United States will release all the sanctions. The United States is going to unfreeze all Iranian assets. The United States is going to allow Iran to actually charge tolls for any ship that is going to cross the Strait of Hormuz. And that is creating global instability for everybody. It is putting at risk the Japanese economy. It is putting at risk the European economies. It is putting at risk the British economy. It is putting at risk the Chinese economy. And of course, it's also putting at huge danger the Middle Eastern countries, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all these nations. Israel, from now onwards, is going to be even more dependent on the United States because Iran is going to be much more powerful than it was in the past. Everyone is on the brink of collapse except the United States. Now, when there is global instability in the world, here is the question. What happens to the global wealth? What do you think rich people do in this case? They want to preserve their wealth. Their first thinking is that how do I actually preserve all the money that I have made throughout my life? So you have rich people in Germany, in the UK, in Japan, in Middle East, and pretty much everywhere else. All these rich people understand that if we want to preserve our wealth, we gotta go and invest it in the United States. Where else are we going to invest that money? Like, think about that for a moment. Will we invest that money in Germany or in the UK, whose economy is stagnating? How about Japan, that is about to collapse if oil is not going to come? Or how about Middle East, that is being wiped out by Iran right in front of us? So that is going to lead to a capital flight back to the United States. Some people will claim that, well, you can just invest that money in European countries. Look at Germany's economy, it's growing so fast. How about the UK's? But let's be honest. European countries do not have a good track record of peace. If it wasn't for the United States, European nations would be fighting with one another. France would wage war against the UK. Germany would start invading France. So everybody knows that the European countries are not actually as safe as they have been, and whenever there is not going to be the United States, it is very easily possible that another war is going to break up in the middle of Europe, simply because that's what has been happening historically. Well, how about China? The problem with China is that it's a new player on the global stage. Look at the Chinese economy, how many years of a good track record that it has. Now, no questions. Over the last 50 years, China has done a magnificent progress. It has become such a most important country. They have done such a huge jump. But think about it. Where was the Chinese currency 50 years ago? It was nothing. Where was China 60 or 70 years ago? It was in the middle of civil war. So China simply doesn't have a long enough track record for investors to trust China with all of their wealth. It doesn't mean that some wealth is not going to go to China. Maybe there is going to be, but that wealth is going to be very limited. Even the Chinese people, in the middle of this crisis that's happening right now, they know that it's very difficult for China to absorb very high energy prices. So they might actually... Japan is, of course, dependent on the United States, and Middle East will be even more dependent on the United States, including Israel. This is the kind of world that is going to catapult the US economy, and that is the result of the war against Iran. So, what does the capital flight to the United States means to begin with? It means lower cost of borrowing. So the United States right now has the world's largest debt. And if you watch Donald Trump's tweets, Donald Trump made it clear. Look, we are the greatest country in the world. We protect the entire world. We should have the lowest cost of borrowing. Now, I'm not actually saying this. I'm basically saying that that's what Donald Trump basically said. And if you think about it, the reason that the United States is the most powerful country in the world, and it has a higher cost of borrowing than many other nations such as Austria, Switzerland, or Singapore, is because we live in this safe world. And in this safe world, it's much safer to loan money to the Singaporean government than to the US government because they have much lower debt to GDP ratio than the United States. But if suddenly there is a chaos in the world, then countries such as Singapore cannot possibly thrive because they cannot possibly maintain a large military to protect themselves, leave alone protect the global shipping route. That is the logic that Donald Trump is using. And in this chaos across the globe, because capital will flow back to the United States, now that means lower cost of servicing the debt. So if right now the average cost of servicing the debt is about 3.6 to 4%, it can come down to 2%, maybe 1.5%. Let's say it's going to be as much as inflation. Well, that is really bad. But look at that from the perspective of an investor. Will you invest that money in the European countries and you're afraid that money will be completely vanished? Or you will accept lower interest rates from the United States because we are just living in this chaotic world. Lower cost of borrowing means lower mortgage rates. The entire debt market is one joint market. So if the cost of borrowing money for the government is going to depreciate, then it is going to be a lot more cheaper for people to get mortgages. Because at the end of the day, all mortgages are turned into mortgage-backed securities and sold to investors. So if there is capital flight from across the globe to the United States buying these mortgage-backed securities, then in theory, mortgage rates should come down across the United States. Relying on the United States energy is much more secure in the long run. So as long as the war with Iran is going to continue and as long as the Strait of Hormuz is going to be vulnerable and closed, what do you think is going to happen to these nations in Asia? They will start thinking, listen, our economies are going to collapse. So we better actually pay a slightly higher price, maybe a 25% premium, and get that oil from the United States or maybe from Venezuela that will be sold by the US companies. Yes, we can get cheaper oil from Middle East, but we can't actually get it because we don't have secure routes. And who is going to secure this route? Who is going to go a war with Iran? Nobody is willing to do that. And these Gulf countries don't have the military capacity to protect their shipping routes. So if we want long-term security, then we are much safer to buy oil from the United States than Middle Eastern countries. And that will be the new status quo. Of course, that is not going to happen instantly. We're going to need a couple of years for that to happen. But think about European countries during the war in Ukraine. At first, it seemed impossible for the European countries to detach themselves from the Russian energy. But over time, over the last 4 years or 5 years, God knows how many years this war has been going on, European countries built the infrastructure and now they're importing not the vast majority, but they have successfully replaced the Russian energy mostly with the US energy. Why can't we do the exact same thing with Asian countries? More countries dependent for their most important resource for the United States, that is more power for the United States over the rest of the world. The world will be busy fighting each other and AI progress mainly will happen in the United States. So the reason that technology has been thriving in other nations besides the United States is because there was a lot of peace across the globe. You see, all these wars happening across the globe, they will never come to the United States. Like the United States is on the other part of the world. You want to make a war in the US? It is so insanely difficult and impossible. The only war that could happen in the US is probably a civil war in the US. There isn't another magnificent power in the Western Hemisphere, like not in North America, not in the Central America, not in the North America. Like Canada is not a threat. There aren't even people in Canada, like 36 million people in Canada, and then can barely raise an army that can even take over the New York, leave alone the rest of the United States. So the United States will always be safe. And because we are right now in the middle of the greatest revolution, which is the AI revolution, and that revolution is primarily happening in two major countries, the United States of America and China. And rising oil prices are going to stagnate growth in China, which might even stagnate its growth in AI. Well, it's much easier for the United States to absorb that high energy cost. First of all, because the United States is self-sufficient when it comes to energy. And secondly, the purchasing power of American consumers is much higher. So the United States can still thrive even when oil prices are at $100, while it's going to cripple the Chinese economy. And manufacturing will also come back to North America. So manufacturing has shifted from United States to China and Asian countries. But now if you are a country that manufactures anything, it is far better for you to do manufacturing somewhere in the United States, Canada, or Mexico than any other part of the world. Yes, in the previous status quo, because the United States provided the global security, it was beneficial, it was profitable to do that. But now the US says to the world, listen, you want your oil from the Strait of Hormuz? Go and take it. I don't care about your oil. Did I start the war? Yes. But is it my responsibility? No. However you're going to get that oil, it is entirely up to you. I don't actually care about it. Now, if you're a business that manufactures stuff, you're thinking about potential future risks. So it's far better for you to establish your manufacturing plants in Mexico, for example, or somewhere cheaper across the United States than in China or Asian countries that can easily run out of oil should there is going to be another crisis. So even though at first that, yes, the United States did not win the war against Iran, they did not achieve a regime change, they could not force Iran to accept the US terms, but as long as the negotiations with Iran are going to last, let's say they will last for a few months, maybe even a year, maybe even longer, until that time, most of the Asian countries will start buying oil from the United States and they will start building some of the infrastructure to make that possible, and the growth in India and China are going to slow down while the US economy will thrive and a lot of capital will come back to the United States. Think about it, how much markets in the United States are going to explode when that much capital will fly back to the United States. So before that happens, if you want to take advantage out of it, you should start investing. And make sure that you should start investing in the right assets and in the right stocks. And if you want to know what are the best stocks to invest in, then join the Investing Academy. The link is going to be in the description of this video.